Welcome to the Fishbowl Radio, everybody. My name is Chief here, and joining me today is my co-host, Jalen. We're going to be breaking down what happened last week against the Louisiana Ragin Cajuns in Buffalo at Cajun Field, and we're also previewing this weekend's matchup against Minnesota when the Cajuns go on the road to take on the Golden Gophers of Minnesota. Let me welcome everybody, Jalen, to the show. How are you doing today, Jalen?
I'm doing well, Chief. It's a good day to be a Cajun, and I happy to be back on the show. Let's get to it.
All right. I mean, look, it's always a great day to be a Cajun, am I right?
Oh yeah, all the time, especially when they get the dub.
So Jalen and I were at the game this past Saturday, live, in person, in color. You know we were out there. But let's look at this real quick here. So one of the biggest takeaways, I thought Zion Chris played well. I thought the offense put up a lot of production, and we got to see that scrambling ability that I know we both mentioned this last week, and I had said I like the mention that he brought to the offense. You know, they're able to run. He's definitely moves around more in the pocket than Ben does, and he's a talented player. I mean, like he sees a gap in a hole, and just his burst through the hole and just having so much speed. Jacob Kabodi, one of the U.S. running backs, had a really good game. He scored 2 touchdowns in that game himself there, and I thought that was something really interesting to talk about. But I think the worst part for the Cajuns that entire game, they let Buffalo get back in the game, which it was a lot closer than it should have been in that game. I thought the Cajuns might have actually ended up losing in overtime because the defense was reeling. But here's the thing. It's adjustments, right, at halftime that you need to make. And the Cajuns haven't been making them so far this year. Whenever you go into the locker room and you figure out, like, okay, we're running a zone. Should we do man coverage? Maybe come out, give them different looks and stuff. Maybe they're figuring out what's going on. Maybe the adjustments that they're anticipating the Cajuns making these kind of adjustments here. And, they're exploiting certain personnel according to their personnel, which it's going to be different for every team because you don't really know because everything's different. They run different styles. That's just the way it is. That's just one way of looking at things here. But I think it isn't really all on the defense. I think the special team needs to be looked at because some of those situations the special teams put the defense in had a very short field and they gave up some points because of that. So it's definitely special teams that number one on my list of where the Cajuns need to really look at improving. But Jalen, what you saw last weekend at Cajun Field?
Well, I saw a team that came out to play. I mean, they dominated in the first half of the game against Buffalo. Chris, like you said, was phenomenal. The offense was great. Defense came, they played, they showed up. But it was the second half where you really, when you have a big lead like that, you really don't have to make that many adjustments. But as far as for the Cajuns in the second half, they just kind of imploded. I mean, all started with that fumble punt kind of real things together for Buffalo. Took advantage. They scored a couple plays later, and that kind of gave them points on the board to give them some kind of momentum. And at the end, I really thought the Cajuns, were going to give up that last touchdown and they go into overtime. But thank goodness that Buffalo quarterback made a mistake and Cajuns escaped Cajun Field with that win on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, look, we talked about it before. I thought the Cajuns would beat Buffalo. I mean, we both picked them to easily win the game against Buffalo because they hadn't won a game up to that point. They're 0-4 so far. They're 0-4 right now. But if you look at, I think this is a very interesting stat to look at. If you look at the records of all the opponents that the Cajuns have lost so far, their record, like this is what I mean here. I'll bring this up every episode that we'll talk about the Raging Cajuns on this podcast here because this season, this schedule here, like I said many times before, it's an easy schedule out of conference. Like Northwestern State, they haven't won a game. They're 0-3. Old Dominion's 2-2. UAB's 1-3. Buffalo's 0-4. So you have a combined total of 12 losses and only 3 wins. The opponent, they're 3-12 is their opponent's record so far this year. You don't get a winning record team until they play Texas State on October 7th. And you got Georgia State, who they're undefeated right now. They're 4-0. South Alabama's 2-2 so far. Arkansas State's 2-2. Southern Miss is 1-3. Troy's 2-2. ULM's 2-1. South Alabama, who is my pick to win in the preseason, the Sun Belt Conference in the West, they're 2-2 right now. So it's kind of making you wonder like how things are shaking up here so far. Granted, the Cajuns are 0-1 in conference play so far, but if they, I know they had the controversy with the tailgating thing, which it's been like I think we'll take a stab at it here and kind of like try to see how people kind of can look at this thing here. Jalen, what's your thoughts about the tailgating situation at UL for the students? Because I know it's on the Twitter sphere, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, obviously is, and it's kind of a big thing, for the students, especially the ones in the fraternities and the sororities, because they try to have some fun before games, and it's kind of like UL is kind of killing their fun. I mean, honestly, I don't think that should have been a thing, especially for this past weekend being family weekend. Families want to drink together, have a good time. So I kind of understand where UL was coming from. It's a rule that we've heard that was displayed years ago, but now they're putting it into effect. But I just think that the hotel gate thing, it was bad timing more than anything. Now they said it at the beginning of the season before they played Northwestern State, and I'll be like, okay, they're enforcing it. But come on now, you waited until they played Buffalo on family weekend. I just don't understand why they just came out with that now.
Well, what I'm thinking that happened here, there had to be something to trigger them issuing that email out to those students, right? You don't just randomly send an email without having tried to have some kind of like. So something happened somewhere that nobody has talked about, or like something happened that weekend when Northwestern State played. Because if it didn't, they wouldn't send the email out. It don't make a sense. It don't make no sense. So something happened, probably. I can only guess if that email was sent out that way. But I mean, one of the weird things I thought about the email was water pong. Like, beer pong was obviously mentioned, but water pong is not really a drinking game per se.
Not
I mean, your aspects of if you throw in the cup of water and you make it in there and you take a swig of your beer or whatever it is, then it's considered a drinking game. But that's technically a lot less hazardous. I guess you could say, than playing beer pong because you're drinking them cups fast. Okay, you're not going to be chugging beer playing water pong constantly because water pong's the safer version of beer pong, if I would say it like you're trying to stay sober for the game, which I'm okay with the drinking games myself. I think they bring a different atmosphere. They bring an organic tailgating atmosphere to the games here. I'm all for the drinking games here. But like there were some rumors about them having because I think where UL is coming from is there's cops, right? They don't have enough police on staff for the fraternities to go back to the house on Saturday or go pregame at the house and then go to the game. So in regards to that there, I think that highlights a significant issue. And you're probably going to wonder what I'm thinking about with this, but do you not have enough police on your police force to actually do this kind of stuff? Because that doesn't seem like, look, there's like 4 or 5 fraternity houses, right? There might be more. If I'm excluding anybody, I apologize, but like you only need one cop to like enforce like it, or two. If you want two, that's like 10 police officers right there, just kind of covering up there. And then you have the ones on the field, which is about what, 3 or 4 of them, Jalen? On each side, I would say. Maybe they have some walking around the concourse or whatever. So,
yeah,
I mean, that kind of points that way there. If you're looking at if you want to put two on a house, I mean, that's kind of the way it is here. Um, but yeah, I think that do I think it was blown out of proportion a little bit? I think it was. Um, you know, I think a liability is probably a big reason why UL actually allowed, you know, those decisions to be made there. I think
yeah, and I
liability,
get it.
insurance, that kind of, if someone drinks a beer, they just collapse and they hit their head on a pole or something standing there, they'll sue the university because they have on university ground and the kid dies or something. I get
Yeah,
all that stuff here, but I mean, hey, unless you get a waiver from the organizations, which they probably do. I would imagine there's a waiver signed somewhere. I would like, if a fraternity is setting up a tent, how I would handle it is to protect myself legally is I would make the fraternity sign a waiver that you will pay for all damages that occur on university grounds. And if you have any damage that happens to yourself or anybody in your fraternity, that is your problem, not the universities. And if they're going to sign the waiver to go tailgate, at that point, it's your own discretion what happens to you and your fellow fraternity because you're going to be on the hook for it. Your fraternity's going to be on the hook for it. You're going to pay for the money there. So I think that would erase a lot of the problems with that. And then at that point, it's just like wash the hands, raise your hands up. I'm clean of doing all this stuff.
Yep.
So I try to hit the nail on the head as much as I can. Anyway, that's just simple solutions there. But Jalen, they got a big game coming up for the Cajuns here. Power 5 competition for them in Minnesota. Minnesota is 2-2 so far this year. The Cajuns offensive line has played well, but like I mentioned earlier, they played a very weak schedule compared to their strength of schedule. ELO right now is 132. Their non-conference is 130. So the win percentage of all their opponents is 18%. Minnesota's at 500 so far this year. Minnesota, they won 2 games. They played 2 conference games so far. So they have played Big Ten competition. They opened up the season with a win against Nebraska, followed that up with a win against Eastern Michigan. They lost to North Carolina. They lost to Northwestern in one overtime. So what you think, Jalen? Who you think how you think this is gonna how you think this is gonna roll out Saturday?
I think the Cajuns, have a chance, but one of the things I'm saying is that you just mentioned the losses and the wins that Minnesota have that they have so far this season. Both of those wins they have were at home, and those 2 losses were both on the road. So you got a team that lost 2 straight. They don't want to lose 3 straight, and then they're playing at home. No one wants to lose at home the 3rd straight game in a row. So that's going to be tough for the Cajuns coming out the gate. But I think they actually have a chance to, go into Minnesota and come out there with the W. I think the offense, it looks really well. I mean, if they clean up the mistakes they had against Buffalo with the special teams, as long as they don't cause any turnovers, and the defense gets turnovers and gets those sacks like they were getting against Buffalo and against teams like Old Dominion, I feel like the Cajuns really can come out there and get the W. And I think the key to this game for the Cajuns to win, I think, is going to be Zion Chris's passing game. Because I know Minnesota's already going to they're going to stack the box. They're going to look for him to run. But if he can prove to them that he's a legit and efficient passer, as we think he could be, the Gophers are in for a long day.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be on the Big Ten network if anybody wants to catch that one. But like at 11 o'clock. But here's the thing. On Central Time, if you're on the East Coast, it's 12. Central Time is 11. But anyway, looking ahead to this game here, I agree with you that I think they will stack the box. I think they're going to try to limit. They're going to do a lot of contain Zion Chris in the pocket. He's going to take some long shots there somewhere. There was a pass where it looked like the receiver at that end right there could have actually maybe fall for the ball more, but I don't think he realized the ball was even coming his way. It got picked off, but it looked like a throw. I did watch it earlier again today to see how he would throw it back, but it looked like he was trying to throw that. He was obviously trying to throw it out of bounds. He just didn't get over enough, and that's where it is here now. I think the Cajuns. It's imperative for them to establish the running game. If they can establish the running game with Jacob Cabody or Daryl Washington and that slew of running back, that's what helps the Cajun a lot. They could maybe pass enough. Zion Chris looked real comfortable after the weather delay. Before he was in that weather delay, it looked like he was just kind of aiming the ball, which resulted in him throwing behind his receivers sometimes. And, just let the game flow through you. Don't try to, Zion Chris does not need to be he could be a playmaker. There's options there, but like I think the Cajuns have enough talent around him for him to be a game manager in the passing game. Now if the hole is open, there's a seam. You cut it upfield and you get down the field real quick there. But I think it's gonna rely a lot on his arm. And it being his really his second game starting with the injury, there's still some unknown from Minnesota about Zion Chris. They only have one game of film on him, not like it would be with Ben or Chandler, where they have played in a couple of these games here. This is he's only his second start here. So he's a young quarterback. He's going to learn better. He's going to take some lumps here. But I really don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen out there come Saturday. But I got the Cajuns losing this game. I'm going to say by 10 points. Who you got, Jalen?
I'm going to say, and I agree with you on the aspect of I think Minnesota is going to get the win, but I think it's going to be closer than what people think. I'm going to give Minnesota a 3-point field goal win. I'm going to give them that.
Because I'll tell you this, though. The Cajuns are going to win this game if this happens. If Zion Chris is able to hit a couple of deep shots down the field, like I'm talking 30, 40-yard passes, where the receivers are getting behind them safeties, and they're ripping off chunks, they're going to win this game because I think the Cajuns' offensive line can handle Minnesota's defensive line. I think he'll have time to throw the ball. I just don't know if he has enough experience passing at this level. Now, he's a naturally gifted football player. I mean, we've seen that in person. He throws it, it's going in there. But it just, I don't know. Sometimes you gotta learn how to read a defense at times. There's seen times that he was and it's on the road. If he was pressing at home for his first start, which is normal, it's normal. He had the best opportunity for a first start to go because at home, you're in front of your home fans. It's really, easier to get in that environment than you go on the road, try to start at Minnesota. So, hey, he played well at UAB. I think the Cajuns, if they hit a couple of those deep ball throws, then 50-50 shots, I think it's going to back off that box, and that's when the Cajuns offensive line, and they're going to be able to show here because I think the Cajuns defense is going to play a big role here, but I think second half adjustments might be what the problem is. So let's look at the predictor and see what the predictor says right here. It's got the Cajuns losing this one 20-24. It still has them finishing 8-4. The other two losses are Detroit and South Alabama. So everywhere else is a win and the loss at Minnesota, of course. So we'll see what happens here. This one's got 24-20. That's an interesting. So they got the Cajuns making 2 field goals. Now, Kenneth Almendarez has been a pretty good field goal kicker so far for the Cajuns this year. So I got a chance to hang out with Kenneth during the preseason. Very good guy. He seems like he's very methodical in how he kicks the ball. He was able to show me step by step how and that is such a cool thing to watch and see. So we'll see what happens with that there. All right, Jalen, you ready for this, buddy? We're going to do some Sun Belt Conference picks for this week here. But before we get down into the meat and the games here, let's take a look at how the Sun Belt standings are looking so far. In the East, you got James Madison tied with Georgia State and Old Dominion. Georgia State and James Madison are both undefeated so far this year. And in the West, Arkansas State is the only team that has won a game in the West in conference play. The East is looking like to be the stronger of the two divisions here. Arkansas State, which is crazy, is actually leading the West right now. But I don't know how much longer that's actually going to last here. So we'll see what happens here with them here. So up first, we're going to go talk about James Madison here real quick. They're taking on South Alabama. Jalen, I'm gonna go with JMU to beat South Alabama. Who you got in that game?
I'm gonna go with JMU also. I mean, I know at one point I know they're still leading the Sun Belt East Division, but they look pretty good this year. And I think South Al is gonna be another great test for them, but I think they're gonna come out with the win.
Yeah, that's kind of like one of the things that I'm kind of like looking forward to so far this year. Um, let's see what happens here. So Arkansas State at UMass. Uh, give me this one's tough because I'm just like I'm gonna go with Arkansas State though. I don't think they're fall that fell down, but I mean they are 2-2 so far this year. So give me Arkansas State. Who you got, Jalen?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Arkansas State also. I think it's just gonna come into the game, and I think Bush Jones is just one of those coaches. It's just like like he prepares his team for games like this and try to not to lose out of Sun Belt play. 'Cause once you get into Sun Belt play, you're able to look at your competition and try to get. And I know they're the number one right now in West Division. Like you said, that might not last for long, but getting wins against non-Sun Belt teams like UMass is a way to start. So I think they're going to get the win.
So Marshall is taking on Old Dominion at home this weekend here. I'm gonna go with Marshall. I think they're gonna be able to run the ball on Old Dominion. Who you got, Jalen?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Marshall also. I think they're going to keep that undefeated streak going into
Coastal Carolina
next week.
at Georgia Southern. Who you got in that game, Jalen?
Oh, this is going to be a good one. I think I'm gonna roll with Georgia Southern on this one. I'm gonna go with Georgia Southern. They're playing at home. I think they're just gonna. I think it's gonna be a close one, right? I'm gonna go with Georgia Southern. I think they'll pull it out in the end.
I've been a little bit disappointed so far with Coastal Carolina. I'm gonna go with them losing to Georgia Southern. I thought they would have a little bit more, with Grayson McCall being their starting quarterback. Give me Georgia Southern. I think the Eagles take care of business. It's not going to get easier for Coastal. They're going to go on the road next week and take on App State. So we're getting in the meat of conference schedules here, basically. But Texas State is going to go on the road and take on Southern Miss here. Um, I'm gonna go with Texas State. I think they're going to pull it off against Southern Miss on the road. Who you got, Jalen?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Texas State also. They're just playing great ball. I mean, TJ Finley is lighting it up. I think he's going to continue.
Yeah, I'll tell you that much here.
And I
Troy
think they're
at
going to come out with
Georgia
the W.
State. I'm gonna go with Georgia State. I think they're for real this year. They look really good so far. Who you got, Jalen?
You see, I picked Troy because I'm thinking they're going to repeat again because they're a great team. They always at Sun Belt Media Day. They got a lot of guys back, but I'm just not gonna go with them this time around. Like I said, Georgia State is hot. They're trying to come out there and win the Sun Belt. I think they're gonna take this game.
Okay. I mean, hey, that's what we love to see, right? It's gonna be a very tough atmosphere for sure for Georgia State to, go to get it done. Wait, let me see real quick. I just messed something up. Okay. I hit the wrong button, guys. I'm trying to look at all the games. No, it's not. It's a tough atmosphere for Troy, is what I meant. I was wondering, I was like, is Troy at home? But they're on the road. So there it is. My
Hmm.
blunder for today. Darn. App State at UOM. I'm going with the Mountaineers. I think they'll roll into Malone Stadium and actually win. Who you got, Jalen?
I'm gonna go with ULM on this one. I think they're right there in the middle of the pack in the West and the Sun Belt in general. And I think after coming off that embarrassing loss to A&M last week, I think they're gonna come for some redemption.
Oh, I'm kind of surprised you go with UOM here. Interesting. Interesting pick there. But I think we have covered everything. Is there anything you think we missed this week, Jalen?
I don't think so, but I'm gonna give a shout out though to tight end Neil Johnson. I know he's been trying to get those get those touchdowns, get those receiving yards, and it's just kind of been a struggle for him this year. So I'm glad he was able to get that touchdown against Buffalo. Keep it going for the rest of the year, Neil.
Yeah, tight in you, baby. Tight in you. It's the Raging Cajuns.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, like you love to see the tight ends because they're kind of the unsung heroes of a lot of these teams, the big safety blanket for quarterbacks out there. So it's always nice to see a good tight end come and do some great things for an offense. So thank you for tuning into the Fishbowl Radio here today. I hope you have a great and wonderful week. We're gonna catch you all next time here on the Fishbowl Radio. Have a good night, everybody.